How did the giant road come into being? Why is the sea glowing in the Maldives? What beach can tickle your nerves? What's the skeleton coast dangerous for? I'll tell you about this now. In this episode, you'll learn about the most dangerous and surprising beaches in the world. And we'll start with the Skeleton Coast. This is a place whose name, even without any details, already evokes not the most pleasant feelings. The Skeleton Coast is what the entire coast of Namibia is called, as well as its northern part, where the same-name national park is located. This unfriendly landmark got its name due to the fact that ships were often wrecked here. Their hulks can still be found on the coast, and some of them even at a considerable distance from the shore. Another peculiarity of this place is that year by year, the desert is encroaching on the Atlantic, and the coastline is gradually shifting westward. It's because of this why some ships, after quite a few years, are not on the shore or even next to it, but right in the middle of the desert. It looks frightening to say the least. And you're probably thinking right now, okay, there are a lot of ships here, but it's not the desert's fault. Ships crashed on the waves and they just got carried here. That's partly true, but don't write off the nature of the desert. The fact is, this place is literally devoid of any joy. The coasts are covered with sand dunes, canyons, and low rocky ridges. There are animals here, and the fauna is quite diverse. However, this place is absolutely unsuitable for people. It rains here once every few years. The nearest settlements are hundreds of miles away, and the waters around are swarming with sharks and snakes. That's why it's impossible to reach civilization even by swimming. By the way, do you know why there are so many sharks on this coast? They're attracted by seals. In turn, they feed on fish. There are many of them in the coastal waters. So, at least for seals, Skeleton Coast can be rightfully called the most dangerous and at the same time the most alluring beach in the world. Gansby. This is the name of a small town in the southwest of South Africa. Sounds a lot more positive already, doesn't it? However, don't rush to rely on the first impression. In fact, a huge number of people die on this beach every year, all because of merciless white sharks. It's believed that the largest population of white sharks is concentrated in this place. And if this is true, then I think you can guess how dangerous it is for any creature and man in the first place. Despite all this, extremists continue to buy tickets to this shore and even dive into the water. The only thing is they do it in cages, thinking that they're completely safe. However, if you believe the rumors, there have been cases when even the cages could not hold back the onslaught of hungry predators. And it would be all right if these sharks devoured a man in just one bite. That's not enough for them. They feed on desperation and a sense of doom. No matter who they hunt, white sharks will inflict almost lethal damage on the enemy and will circle around for a while, watching the opponent worrying about his own life and trying to make things right. However, of course, he won't be able to do anything, and after watching the poor guy for a while, the white shark will finish what it started. For better or worse, biologists have recently recorded an outflow of predators from this coast. This is thought to be due to changing water temperatures. On the one hand, this is great because people have an additional safe place to live, but on the other hand, it can imbalance nature and affect the population of certain creatures. Now we're going to talk about the shore of a sandy island off the coast of Australia. It's called Fraser. It's one of the most dangerous beaches in the world. Its beauty is blinding, not out of good intentions, but to prevent a person from seeing the real horror here. The dunes of this place rise up to a height of 800 feet and are covered with mangrove and equatorial forests where outlandish hanging lakes hide. The coast, facing the Pacific Ocean, is a single giant beach more than 62 miles long. The main thing is not to get carried away with walking along this fabulous place and not to leave the coastline. The thing is that right behind it, jellyfish, irukandji, await them with pleasure. Although they look very beautiful and unusual, even your worst enemy would not wish to meet them. A sting of these creatures will require immediate medical attention, which is almost impossible to find on the island. It's curious that the person bitten by this creature will think that everything is fine with him and that he'll easily wait for help and will last until the next morning. In reality, however, this is not the case at all. It takes a few moments from the moment of the bite, and the complete absence of pain sensations will be replaced by a whole extravaganza of paralytic effects: severe pain in the head, muscles of the limbs, internal organs, nausea. All this affects the nervous system. Person is wrapped in anxiety, tachycardia begins. There are many possible outcomes. Someone's heart will fail, another will have pulmonary edema, and someone, for unknown reasons, will die on the spot in the blink of an eye. That's why no one hurries to visit the Fraser Island beach, even in spite of its marvelous natural beauty. Everyone cares about their lives. You know, listening to all kinds of stories about the islands and why they're dangerous, you marvel at the power of nature. At the same time, you're glad that everything happens for natural reasons. I mean that the islands do not become dangerous because of human activity. Yes, as you can see, the opposite story is about to happen. The story where the state's nuclear testing had irreversible consequences and turned Bikini Atoll into a full-fledged test site. After World War II, the military arrived in the Marshall Islands in the Pacific. The locals greeted them with little enthusiasm, but there was nothing the poor people could do about it. They were all told that this was for the good of the country and would not affect their lives at all. However, no one could have imagined what it would all lead to. Bikini Atoll had been home to humans and a huge number of other living creatures for over 2,000 years. But in an instant, they were all asked to leave their homes. Temporarily, of course. It would be the site of an atomic bomb test that would end all wars in the world. The locals dutifully moved in and waited for news. Well, some people were not able to sit still and only guessed about what was really going on there. Others installed cameras everywhere, more than 700 pieces, and prepared for launches. A total of 67 nuclear tests took place at this location. The plan was that after seeing them firsthand, realizing what would happen to the powerful ships or even the territories they would drop bombs on, people would lay down their weapons and learn to solve problems in peace. However, nothing like that happened. It only created a few other killing problems. The scientists miscalculated the force of one of the explosions, which was several times more powerful than the Hiroshima and Nagasaki explosions. Thus, they damaged the local neighboring island. It was completely covered in radio wave-soaked ash, and people were contaminated. Yes, many were rescued, but it still wasn't enough to mitigate the effects. As for our atoll, after a while the locals were allowed to visit it again. Allegedly, everything was successful and people could return to their routine lives. Except that the American scientists were wrong again. As it turned out, the radiation didn't go anywhere, and 8 years later it began to claim the lives of innocent local people. They removed from the island everyone they could, and the place was recognized as uninhabitable. It's said that it cannot be visited to this day, and it's not known when it will be possible to visit it again. However, what surprised me most of all, personally, is that if you don't take people into account, life here is still in a full swing. Shoals of perch and tuna are much larger than neighboring atolls. Nurse sharks follow them, and there are plenty of young coconut crabs crawling along the bottom. And they're all as healthy as wild animals can be. Scientists attribute this to the fact that the more primitive the creature, the less exposed it is to radiation. The next place we're going to talk about is more than livable, but still incredibly dangerous. It's a beach called Maho. It's located in the southwestern part of the island of St. Martin in the Caribbean Sea. This place is widely known because of the fact that it's adjacent to the runway of the local airport. This is why landing and taking off planes fly only 30 to 65 feet above the ground. I think you've already imagined and realized how dangerous it is there. And not so much by low overflight as by the accompanying problems that arise against this background. For example, we should not forget about the incredible noise made by flying transportation. All of us have heard this sound at the moment when approaching the airplane or descending from it. And now imagine that you hear it regularly, louder and clearer. You'd go crazy out there. It's lucky that this place has a quiet bar and a special loudspeaker. Through it, the locals are always warned about an impending airplane. All those who are worried about their hearing can find a shelter. It's better to hurry up. In addition to the unbearable noise from airplanes, you can feel the strongest airflow. It can easily blow away even an adult person. Wind speed can reach 100 miles an hour. By the way, this is the reason why you won't find any vegetation at all in this place. Snake Island. The next island is full of vegetation, as well as living creatures. However, it does not contribute to the survival of people, but on the contrary, plays us a trick. After all, this island in the Atlantic Ocean is also called Snake Island. You can hardly walk at a relaxed pace and enjoy the warm sun or the sound of the surf on this beach because this place is literally swarming with crawlers. There are countless snakes here, and if you believe the statements of scientists, a person will not last a couple of hours here. You must admit that it's rather strange that there are no hotels and other resorts where a person could demonstrate the dangerous wildlife. After analyzing the question, it will become clear that there is nothing strange about it at all. There's no human footsteps here at all, and the snakes are naturally to blame. Crawlers live everywhere – on the ground, in trees, in crevices, under the soil, even in the water. It even seems that the local forest hisses. In fact, it's all the sounds of disgruntled and dangerous snakes. Their population density is, just think about it, 5 crawlers for every 10 square feet. And it would be okay if only cute snakes lived here. Everything would look quite normal. The main inhabitant of these lands is the golden lancehead. These creatures are extremely poisonous, and all because the reptiles have destroyed all their natural enemies on the island. They have no need to often use their stingers. And to immobilize a bird or rodent for dinner, the venom use is negligible. That's what they've got, a potent mixture in their veins, a mixture for which there is no cure, at least not yet. Usually, snakes with the strongest venoms are calm and confident. They do not attack every person they meet. They cannot but please, but the golden lanceheads are an exception to the rule. They're aggressive, immoderate, and very belligerent. People are so afraid of them that they do not come to this beach and the island as a whole. They even decided to install an automatic lighthouse there so as to not send any keepers to this place. If any of you think that they would easily rid the island of nasties, know that such attempts in history have already been made. As you can guess, they did not end positively. First, the people wearing huge boots realized that these snakes could jump on their enemies right out of the trees, and tall shoes wouldn't help. Then when the men arrived there in fully protective suits, it was realized that the hot climate would not allow them to complete the mission. As a result, the brave crew successfully left the island and no one ever returned. But not only dangerous islands can attract people's attention, right? There are also unusually beautiful places in the world to which, on the contrary, very much want to come. Vadoo Island is one of them. It's on the wish list of most tourists, not because it's in the Maldives, but because it has a truly magical glow. What you're witnessing now is the result of bioluminescence. It's the glow produced by a living organism. In the past, many people mistakenly believed that this miracle was the result of phytoplankton. In fact, that's not quite true. Plankton glow lasts less than a second, which would not be enough to create the lighting we see on the beach. In fact, it's created by crustaceans that can glow for a couple of seconds or even minutes. This happens whenever they come into contact with the water. Of course, there are also phytoplankton, but crustaceans are responsible for most of the glow. The neon lights produced by these organisms cover the entire beach and make it look fantastic. Seeing the previous beach for the first time, it may look like aliens put their green hands to its creation, or else. But in fact, it looks even more adequate if you compare it to the same Giant's Causeway. The glow is logically explainable. However, these 40,000 basalt columns, incomprehensibly connected to each other, are not so easy to explain. This road is a famous place in Northern Ireland. According to legend, it was built by prehistoric giants. Most of the columns here have a hexagonal shape. The rest have 4, 5, 7, and 8 corners. The largest column reaches 40 feet in height. It was absolutely impossible for people to build a road from such stones, and what are prehistoric people, even modern people, could hardly do something like this. Naturally, for such a thing to be formed by natural causes, all the stars must come together. However, we're not used to believing in such things. People are much more interested in believing in a miracle that in ancient times some giants lived there and built this road for their own purposes. That's about it. Write in the comments what place seemed the most frightening to you. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel.